Good morning, this is Doc with Bikers Against Trafficking, and we're here in Leesburg, but we have a lot of questions that people, when they come by, they ask us. And one of them was, how does trauma impact the brain? So in thinking about it, I thought, okay, we'll do a series of posts throughout the day talking about trauma and what to do about it. As we all know, the brain can only take in so much information in a moment. So when we're born, right, we sort of pop into this world and our brain is kind of blank. Right? We don't know a lot, we have to learn a lot. So let's say the first time we experience a four-legged creature, right? We go up to that creature, we don't know what it is, and we're like, oh, what is that? And someone comes up to us, a well-meaning person, and says, that's a cat. And you're like, oh, a cat, right? In that moment, you reach into your brain, you pull out a blank manila file folder, open it up, you label it cat, you describe the experience, and then whatever emotions you experienced during that encounter goes into the file. You close it back up, stick it back in your brain. Now you know what a cat is. Let's say the next day you see another four-legged creature, right? And now you think you know something, and you're like, oh, cat, cat, cat. And they're like, no, that's a dog. In that moment, you reach back into your head, pick out another file folder, label it dog, describe the experience, put the emotion in it, close it up, stick it back in. So the developmental psychologist Piaget says we either assimilate or accommodate all information, which means everything we encounter, remember, smell, see, whatever, every time we do it, our brain files it either in a pre-existing file or a new file to make sense of it. So let's say when you're 3, you're walking down the street, you see a dog, right? And you have this encounter, you squat down, you're petting the dog, and the dog loses it, bites you, tears off some skin, and you have to go to the hospital. Very, very traumatic. So into the dog file goes a lot of this negative emotion. Closes up, puts it back in your head. Now let's say for the next 10 years, you never see a dog, think about a dog, hear about a dog. Now you're 13, you're driving down the road, or you're walking down the road, sorry. Hopefully not driving. You're walking down the road, and all of a sudden you see a four-legged creature. The moment you see that four-legged creature, right, that image goes into your brain, and the HPA axis, which is the hypothalamus, your pituitary adrenal gland, kind of like the emotional controller of your brain, that information goes right to the hypothalamus and it freezes it in time. It then turns to the amygdala, which is attached to it, and the amygdala in your brain has one job: to determine whether something is a threat or not. So it turns to the amygdala, it asks the amygdala, is this a threat? The amygdala says, let me check. So the amygdala goes to the hippocampus, which is the librarian of the brain, right? Tries to process it and asks the librarian, hey, give me the file that best helps me understand what this four-legged creature is. So the hippocampus gives them the dog file. So the amygdala sits down, probably with a cup of coffee, opens up the file, and out jumps this negative emotion. The moment that negative emotion jumps out, the amygdala turns to the hypothalamus and says it's a threat. Even though we don't know anything about that four-legged creature today, it's a threat because it stirs up the negative emotion of the encounter 10 years ago. So your hypothalamus hits the 911 button, and all these stress hormones, epinephrine, cortisol, right, adrenaline, and now we're like, oh, and we have a panic. We don't know anything about the dog today, but we interpret that dog through those experiences of the past, and it triggers us, and we become stressed, right? That stress response kicks in, and now we're going to do whatever we have to do to survive. If that happens, you have to flush those chemicals out of your brain as quickly as you can. If you can talk to yourself, it helps move the energy from the emotional part back up to the prefrontal cortex, where you can process it and make sense. So you can journal, you can go and exercise, you can take deep breaths, like count to 3, breathe in, hold it, and then count out slowly to count to 3. Kind of process that. Smell something soothing, it penetrates the blood-brain barrier and it can bring you calm. The goal is to flush those hormones out so we can be in the moment and use our rational mind versus our irrational emotional reaction to process it. But that's how stress works. So if you find yourself having a lot of anxiety, a lot of panic, realize this is the dynamic that's going on. The next video, we'll talk about the F's, the 5 F's of trauma, and how that automatic response kicks in. But just remember, calm yourself down, or those stress hormones leave. Peace out, Doc.